as if it could have been deliberate. Who knows?
Ferry possessed extensive knowledge of NATO military strengths and weaknesses. In the same month, there's another similar death. 50-year-old Alistair Beckham appears to have wired himself to the mains power supply. There's no suicide note. His cause of death is electrocution. Beckham works for one of the companies contracted to America's SDI program. Documents found at his home indicate he had knowledge of a wide variety of military technologies. Have Beckham and Ferry really committed suicide? Or have they been killed because of their knowledge of secret military tech?
Possibly because of their knowledge, they had been asked to divulge that information and had been unwilling to do so.
If the deaths are assassinations, the most obvious suspect is the Soviet Union. For them, the Star Wars program could mean the end of superpower status.
If Star Wars worked, it would have been a tremendous threat to the Soviet Union. It would have neutralized their nuclear weapons.
The KGB, the USSR State Security Service, was known for using poisons to assassinate. In 1978, they were suspected of supplying the poison that killed Bulgarian dissident Georgy Markov in London. While walking past a bus stop, Markov was jabbed by an unknown assassin with an umbrella. After his death, a pellet laced with the deadly toxin ricin was found embedded in his skin. Could the Star Wars cases and Vimal Dajabai's strange puncture mark be further examples of covert Soviet assassination?
The Soviet Union wanted to do whatever it could to derail the program. It's not out of the question that the Soviet Union would have resorted to this kind of a thing.
But in the 1970s, Britain had expelled nearly 100 suspected Soviet spies. Since then, the Soviets had found penetrating British society difficult, instead relying on one particular sister agency to do their intelligence gathering for them, the notorious East German spy agency, the Stasi.
I believe the Stasi was extremely successful in infiltrating the United Kingdom and far more successful than the Soviet Union.
The East German Ministry of State Security, or Stasi, was the most comprehensive intelligence gathering agency in the world. Masters of covert surveillance, with their skills honed for years on the streets of East Berlin. The Stasi was a communist paramilitary organization with 100,000 personnel and tentacles far beyond its own borders.
The Stasi's job was to protect communism in East Germany, but to protect communism more generally, where the KGB and the Soviet Union could not themselves do it.
A document recently unearthed from top-secret Stasi files details a 1973 deal signed by the heads of the Stasi and of the KGB. It reveals an agreement for the Stasi to unofficially penetrate America and NATO countries to gather intelligence on technology. Training for espionage operations included hand-to-hand combat, and for some, assassination techniques.
They also undertook what Marcus Wolf, until 1986, the head of the East German intelligence service, called wet jobs. That is to say, the physical elimination of individuals who were seen as a direct threat to the future of communism in East Germany and the Soviet Union.
At the time, one of the most direct threats to communism was America's Star Wars program. In 1985, the Stasi chief issues an order to use all options to gather military-related information from the enemy. The Stasi are suspected of deploying up to 100 secret agents in Britain, specifically to target defense programs.
And the Stasi had a particular expertise in killing people but making it look like suicide or accident.
the Stasi were rumored to use undetectable poisons developed in a secret KGB lab.
The poisons caused, in some cases, caused people to behave irrationally. In some cases, it simply killed them outright. But nobody would be able to trace it later to a poison.
Use of toxins, combined with psychological intimidation, could explain some of the victims' bizarre behavior.
Is it plausible that the Stasi was in some way involved in these mysterious deaths? Yes, it is plausible. The Stasi were killers. They believed they had to kill in order to ensure the continuity of their regime. Were they interested in defense intelligence? Absolutely. Were they interested in electronic defense intelligence? Absolutely.
Although suspicion about the Stasi's involvement is strong, the one thing that's always been missing is cold, hard proof. But could evidence have been buried deep in East Germany's archives? The Mystery, a series of strange deaths linked to America's Star Wars program in the 1980s. The Theory, an assassination campaign carried out by East German spy network, the Stasi. But there's no proof. And according to intelligence experts, it's possible there never will be.
I would say if such evidence did exist, it would have been destroyed within the first few hours of the collapse of the East German regime.
With the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, millions of Stasi files are destroyed. And with them, the smoking gun that might have brought closure to this string of unexplained deaths.
Details of Stasi operations, including wet jobs, killing, assassination, they were the most incriminating. They were the first to go.
When the Cold War ends in 1991, tellingly, the deaths of defense scientists in Britain cease too. The Strategic Defense Initiative never succeeds in creating a space-based missile defense shield.
The SDI program never reached the prototype stage because many of the technologies were very, very advanced.
Over 3 decades since the SDI's inception, missile defense remains one of the military's most difficult challenges. The closest program America has is Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, or THAAD, which has been tested intercepting decoy missiles high over the Pacific Ocean. Just as the challenge of missile defense endures, so too does the mystery of what happened to so many defense scientists. Jane Hankins' father was one of 6 scientists who died from carbon monoxide poisoning. She hopes one day the truth will be revealed.
The main question about my father's death is, for me, is what happened and how did it happen? The fact that there were 6 scientists who died, like my father, from carbon monoxide poisoning, all of whom had been involved in the Star Wars defense projects, seems way beyond a coincidence. It seems downright bloody sinister, if you ask me.
Being the keeper of military knowledge can be dangerous. And in the Middle East, 20 years later, another set of scientists are in the crosshairs. January 12th, 2010. Iranian academic Masoud Ali Mohammadi leaves home from his job at the University of Tehran. But he will never arrive.
Al-Mohammadi was killed by a bomb that had been attached to a motorcycle that was parked near his house.
This has all the hallmarks of a professional hit. But Ali Mohammadi seems an unusual target.
Officially, he was just teaching what's called particle physics.
He's a distinguished, well-published lecturer at Iran's most prestigious university. But who would want this dedicated academic dead? The death of Ali Mohammadi comes at a time when the eyes of America and the world are on Iran.
So much satellite attention was zooming in on Iran. No country in the world has more satellites looking into what's happening than Iran did.
At various remote sites, American intelligence observes suspicious activity. Analysts suspect Iran is trying to conceal a huge secret, a clandestine program to develop nuclear weapons.
Building a nuclear facility is not an easy operation. It leaves a tremendous amount of traces and imagery that you can see from space.
Near the remote village of Fordo, satellites spy a hidden structure. Not one, but multiple entrances. One tunnel, two, an interconnected network. Iran's building something underground they don't want the world to know about.
They could see, for instance, that pathways are being built. They could see that there's a tunnel being built in the mountain. And as a result, they had good reason to believe that this was a nuclear facility.
Surprisingly, Iran's nuclear program was kick-started in the late 1950s by America. President Eisenhower actually provided the Shah of Iran with the country's first reactor in a program known as Atoms for Peace. For decades, Iran uses nuclear power only for peaceful purposes. But in the 2000s, their nuclear activities become more secretive.
A few years earlier, the Iranians had effectively been outed in having nuclear facilities in a place called Natanz that had not been previously declared to the International Atomic Energy Agency.
Iran claims Natanz and the undisclosed site at Fordo are for energy production, not nuclear weapons.
From the American side, they don't buy that. They believe that the only reason you would build a small facility in the mountain is for weapons purposes.
While the mystery of the nuclear program is unraveling, another mystery is unfolding on Iranian streets.
In 2007, a number of scientists in Iran started to die various ways.
In January 2007, Ardashir Husseinpour is poisoned by gas. Masoud Ali Mohammadi is killed by a bomb attached to a parked motorcycle in January 2010. In November 2010, Majid Shahiri is killed by a car bomb. Faryadun Abbasi Daboni survives an identical attack on the same day. In 2011, Dariush Razianazad is shot dead by a gunman on a motorcycle. And in 2012, Mustafa Ahmadi Roshan is killed when motorcyclists attach a magnetic bomb to his car. As word of the deaths filter out of Iran, international intelligence agencies try to uncover a connection between the scientists. Something that could explain why they were killed. In the case of Ali Mohammadi, hacked emails from U.S. private intelligence agency Stratfor reveal analysts trying to discover if his work as a university professor might be a cover for something more sinister. Finally, Ali Mohammadi's widow reveals what none of his students or colleagues knew. He was involved in secret work on Iran's nuclear program.
It seems that he was working for the nuclear program of his country, but he had kept that a secret.
Iranian President Ahmadinejad later confirms all the dead scientists are nuclear martyrs. Iran's nuclear program is being ruthlessly targeted.
For many of us who were observing and studying Iran, it was quite clear very early on that there is a very intense, dirty war taking place behind the scenes.
But who exactly is killing scientists in this secret dirty war? There's no shortage of suspects.
Most of the Western world, the EU, the UK, Israel, almost all these nations didn't want to see Iran having nuclear weapons.
the late 2000s, it's suspected that Iran is on a path to producing weapons-grade uranium. While the world debates how to respond, it seems someone is already taking action. 5 Iranian nuclear scientists are assassinated in targeted attacks.
It seemed that someone wanted to intimidate scientists from working for Iran's nuclear program.
Meanwhile, Iran's nuclear plans have hit another hurdle. A mysterious malfunction is affecting a crucial piece of their enrichment equipment, the centrifuges at their Natanz plant.
The centrifuge works pretty much like a salad spinner. So we spin the gas around with a lot of energy and for a lot of time in order to achieve these high enrichments.
The centrifuges are designed to separate weapons-grade uranium-235 from another isotope, uranium-238. But a strange glitch is making that process impossible.
It deliberately would either speed up the machines, throw off the bearings, and destroy the machines, or make them go too slowly.
The Iranians were totally puzzled as to what's the problem with our centrifuges.
The problem is revealed to be a sophisticated cyberware dubbed Stuxnet. A virus with 20 times more code than any other previously created. Although Iran's nuclear plants are not connected to the internet, somehow this worm has jumped the cyber moat.
We believe that Stuxnet got across the moat, as it were. It got across from the internet to the Iranian isolated network in a thumb drive, a very ordinary thumb drive.
Once in the system, the worm targets the logic controller that governs Natanz's centrifuges, making them spin out of control.
Stuxnet would, with great specificity, sabotage the particular industrial nuclear weapons programs centrifuges used.
It's clearly a targeted attack. Although present worldwide, Stuxnet is designed to cause damage only at Iran's nuclear plants. Sabotage by software. But who's behind it? Rumors confirmed by anonymous sources in the U.S. government lead in just 2 directions.
There is a lot of reporting by many sources that Stuxnet was a joint U.S. and Israeli product. Neither country has admitted it, but there are plenty of clues.
One clue is this secret NSA document, declassified in 2013. It reveals the NSA has been authorized